So a question I get asked a lot is, do I need a brand? Do I really need to be branded? Well, let's talk about that for a bit. Hey, bam! I'm John Harris, and this is Info Products, coming to you live from our digital studios. Look, it's not as important to have a brand really as it is to have a proper message and offer when you're starting out. But you do need a brand for recognition. So let me tell you a little story. I was in Japan, Tokyo with my son. We'd gone over there to do a warrior quest and had a fantastic trip. Went to the actual temple where Miyamoto Musashi trained when he was a young guy. And when we were in Tokyo for a while, I had traditional Japanese food, but after a while, I wasn't sure all the time when I ordered what I was going to get because it's all in Japanese. So where did I go? McDonald's. Spent a lot of time at McDonald's. And why we went to McDonald's? Because we knew the brand, its value proposition, and what we're going to get. That's the power of brand. It gives an ability to be recognized. Look, the thing to understand is when you're building a brand, you need to get your proposition out there, your message, and you need to make sure that you have a proper logo, coloring. You need to have something that is a tagline, something that people will resonate. And the way to go about doing this is not through facts, but through story and people. So I think a good place to start, really, I'm just looking at some of my notes here, would be, talk about Trump. The message, you're going to get your prospects to move to your value proposition. And Trump, obviously on the campaign trail, gave out his manifesto, his proposal that his messaging was about the immigration, building the wall. It was about, returning some of the soldiers from other battlefields, getting everybody home safe, stop interfering and being involved in these never-ending wars. And there was various things that he spoke about on his campaign trail, and I'm not proposing Dems or Republicans. I'm not saying anything about politics. I'm just saying it's quite interesting how he marketed and how he positioned himself. So his messaging consistently has been doing what he's been following through, creating jobs, doing things he said he'd try and do, and that messaging is what was in his manifesto, in his campaign. Now let's have a look at the other side of it. Was his promise. And you've got to understand, in a brand should actually represent the result, your promise. So his thing is, the latest one obviously is the MAGA, where he's saying make America great again. So that's his promise. So he had his messaging, and now he's got his promise. And he's doing very strong campaigns and very strong marketing. We all know that. But it's quite useful to see how he's doing it, to make it realistic for us to see how this thing really works in practice. So the other thing we've got to remember is polarizing. It's a huge power is that to have polarization. So we all know the Republicans and the Democrats. I'm not saying it's good politics the way it's carrying on, but there's definitely polarization. And obviously it shouldn't go to somewhere because it's very destructive. But it gets his people, his tribe following him. He doesn't want to attract, as we've spoken before about avatars, and we've spoken before about marketplaces. He wants his ideal customers, his clients, the people that are going to vote for him. He's not trying to attract those hardened Democrats, and we've seen them. It'd be very difficult, no matter what you did, to try and get people that don't like or trust you to vote for you or buy your products or services. If they don't like and trust you, they ain't going to buy it. If they don't believe in what you're selling, they're not going to buy from you. If it doesn't interest them, if it doesn't solve a problem for them, they're not going to buy from you. So you need to attract the right customers and repel the wrong ones. And your brand has a lot to do with that. It's very important that you put out your message, and your message brings your prospects to your value proposition, and then your promise is equal to the results that you're going to offer. I'm just going to go through some of my notes. Look, the key thing with your brand, 3 qualities that you want to communicate to your customers when it comes to brand. So the 3 qualities for successful brand messaging. 1, use a unique, constant voice. So you want to use a unique, constant voice. You want to establish a unified visual brand. And you want to keep consistent language. So that consistency, you'll see it in a lot of brands. You'll see it in the big Coca-Cola, Pepsi type brands. You see it consistently out there, consistently moving on with the story and being social and building that brand consistently. 4 things to establish your brand. A strong name, visual elements, a clear tagline as we've discussed, and a core story. Can't emphasize enough the power of story. Human beings are hardwired to story. You can't help but listen to somebody sitting next to you at another table if it's an interesting story. The power of story. We come from the African plains, the savannah. We come from a scenario where things were passed on orally, where hunting and techniques, the whole skill set was done orally. And that is why it's so hardwired. It was our very existence and our cooperation that set us apart. And that was all done orally through stories. Even today, the San Bushmen uses oral stories to tell about their history, to tell about their religion, to tell about hunting techniques, gathering techniques, places and things, people, still through story. These are very important things that we're discussing. And you need to make sure that you get this in place if you're going to build a brand, either as your own personal brand that you're building out, or you're going to build a platform, a company, an organization, enterprise, and build that brand down. Obviously, it becomes more and more important the bigger you get. Let's just go on a journey and figure out some of these objections you make. So 5 steps to create your core story. You want to handle objections in your story. You want to, your customers address their needs, connect to them. You need to brainstorm key points. So when you create that story, you want to think, what is the connectivity tissue? Where will it resonate with the people that I'm trying to attract? You need to write that story out. And a lot of people, when they start, people that advance in storytelling and have created powerful stories know all this. But for guys starting out, a lot of people say, okay, tell me about yourself, tell me a story, and they might start at somewhere, a lot of people started where they did something great. It's not the best place to start with a story. Best place to start with a story is some tragedy, some problem, something that went wrong, and how you then strive to correct it. You found a way, you got a result, you got around it, and how you then came back. How you went into the woods, fought the wild animals and came out the other side in one piece, and how you did that. That's how you go through that challenge and how you start to create that story. So you then need to practice your storytelling. These are very powerful things that connect to the customers, the type of people, the avatars that you want, and as part of your brand. In big business, they use a business narrative. When it becomes more personalized as an individual, as more of a hero's story or a aha moment type story, those kind of stories that people use. So some of the success tips, we've already mentioned to polarize. If you're building sales funnels, which we also do, look, you want to say, as opposed to websites. Why have a website? Why not have a funnel? Well, we're used to having websites. We have websites. Websites is what everybody has. So a website provides information, tells you about the business, but does it generate you revenue? So a funnel is built specific sequence to take a person on a journey, like entering a store, to the back of the store, to a place on a shelf where they want to buy something and get them to purchase. So a sales funnel is to actually offer us a product, a service, and get paid for it. Okay, so there's a big difference between a website, a traditional website, and a sales funnel. Be real and authentic. We know of a lot of people that are very methodical, very correct, very factual, and very monologue, and have a total monologue, and you aren't interesting. We're people who show their vulnerabilities, the mistakes they made, and how they got past those mistakes. They're human beings, like all of us, those people that can resonate. Some of the terrible things that have happened to them and how they found solutions to those problems. Differentiate. A key element here is, what could you be the best in the world at? Well, it's you, your story, and what that problem is that you perhaps have solved surrounding your story, surrounding something that you found a solution where people have said, oh, how do you do that? Something that comes naturally, easily to you that you don't understand why people would even pay for it. It's something that's obvious to you. My wife is a super organizer. She's unbelievable. And I said to her, that's what she needs to put. People ask her, how do you do this? How do you create these events? How do you do this business of yours? She's such a super organizer. And that is her superpower. And those are things that we look at when we extract your natural superpowers and how that resonates with your story. And obviously not to be silly, not to be too cute. Don't do online what you wouldn't do in real life in a social scenario. That may not be true for all people. But generally speaking, you don't want to do something silly online that you wouldn't do in a natural social environment. Be personal, which obviously resonates with being authentic. Don't overcomplicate your story. A lot of powerful stories, if you look at nursery rhymes, if you look at stories that have lasted the test of time, if you look at parables of fairly simple stories with a very powerful message. And as we said, you need to show your personality. People have different personalities and often try to be different people who's their heroes. They try to act and be like the heroes. People, it's not genuine, it's not them. You want to be who you are. If you come like myself from the wilds of Africa, from the African plains, that's my story. That's where I was leading people. That's where my dream was. And I have the picture of the actual place that's come to reality. The mind has actually realized that in reality now, where we have this game farm where we are helping sponsor people who are less fortunate than ourselves. So these things do happen, and they happen for a reason, and the power of brand cannot be underestimated when it's backed by a really powerful story. And that is something that I'd like you to think about. You need to start to draft out your story. You can get ideas for how to do a story, how to do a business narrative, and do something that's exciting and entertaining. Another thing just to mention off the cuff, Trump is also entertaining. That's what really differentiates him from a lot of the other leaders who may have some very good points, who may have some very good policies that they want to, things that they want to make happen, but they may not be anywhere near as entertaining. And that's one of his real things. So, as per usual, until next time, like us, follow us, subscribe to us, apply what we've told, and we will see you in the next episode. Again, I'm John Harris, and thanks for watching the video. Please, if you enjoyed it, if you liked it, just click the like button. If you haven't already, subscribe, and perhaps go and look at the other videos if you haven't already seen them. And I will see you in the next episode.